The galaxy was never truly quiet. Not in the bustling trade lanes of the core worlds, not in the dusty border sectors where warlords bickered over forgotten moons, and certainly not in the encrypted quantum channels that stitched together the great civilizations. Noise, data streams, diplomatic chatter, military updates, was the lifeblood of interstellar order. But on that day, the day history would later call the silence, Earth vanished from the network. At first, it was a flicker, an anomaly, dismissed as a solar storm or a localized comms outage. Traffic control AIs logged the event and queued a standard diagnostic ping. The ping returned nothing. The next one also failed. And then, in perfect synchrony, every satellite, every orbital relay, every human-controlled beacon stopped transmitting. In the command hall of the Galactic Relay Authority, the senior monitor on duty stared at her console as a map of Earth's sector went black, as if someone had poured ink across the stars. Central. "I think we just lost an entire planet's comm net," she whispered. Her words rippled through the chamber like a physical shockwave. Technicians scrambled, feeding emergency signals through alternate routes, bouncing hails off deep space buoys, even retasking passing freighters as temporary relays. Nothing. Not a whisper, not a ghost packet of data, not even the low-level pulse of automated traffic. The humans had gone completely dark. On the other side of the galaxy, the council chamber of the Virili hegemony convened an emergency session. The chamber was vast and organic, carved from the interior of a living star whale, but its grandeur could not hide the undercurrent of fear slithering through the assembly. "The Terrans do not simply lose communications," hissed Chancellor Vrelth, her scales shifting to an anxious gray. "Their technology is redundant across dozens of platforms. For their entire network to go down simultaneously, this is deliberate." "Deliberate?" scoffed Admiral Hrax of the Corward Defense Fleet. "You mean they did this to themselves?" "Perhaps not to themselves," Vrelth countered. "Perhaps to us." The chamber went silent at that. Everyone knew the legends. Humanity was strange, too young, too aggressive, too brilliant for their own good. They had been a backwater species for most of galactic history, then, in the span of a few centuries, leapt from fission rockets to singularity drives. Their scientists cracked problems that had stymied elder races for millennia, their soldiers fought with an ingenuity that frightened even the insectoid Creel, and their warships were whispered about like ghosts, never confirmed, never recorded, yet somehow always present where great battles turned. And now, for the first time since joining the galactic stage, they had cut off all contact. Aboard the ISS Resolute, Commander Evelyn Hale stood at the viewport, staring down at a silent, unlit Earth. It was wrong, unnaturally wrong. No city lights glittered across the continents. No orbital traffic traced lazy arcs around the planet. Even the moon's relay station, usually blinking with the steady heartbeat of transmissions, was dark. Earth hung in space like a dead world, and yet the sensors showed no signs of catastrophe. The atmosphere was stable. Power grids still hummed beneath the surface. Biosigns were present. "Commander," her comms officer said, voice tight. "We've triple-checked every channel. We're not being jammed. They just aren't answering." Evelyn's jaw tightened. The Resolute was one of Earth's few deep-range cruisers, returning from a survey mission beyond the Perseus Gap. They had dropped out of FTL to find home gone quiet, like coming back to a house with all the doors open and no one inside. She turned to her crew. "Lock down the ship. Full combat readiness. No outgoing transmissions." The bridge crew hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. "Do it," she snapped. "If Earth went dark on purpose, we're not about to light a beacon saying we missed the memo." The first panic wave hit the galactic net 6 hours later. Freighters arriving in Sol System reported the same thing the Resolute had seen: silence. The news spread faster than light, from core to rim, until every species, every government, every petty warlord knew. Earth had vanished from the conversation. And for reasons no one could articulate, everyone felt the same creeping dread. 3 days into the silence, the first strange thing happened. A Zelthari scout frigate, ignoring quarantine advisories, jumped into Sol system on a reconnaissance sweep. It never came back. Its last transmission was a single fragmented message, decoded by a dozen listening posts. They saw us. After that, even the boldest captains stayed away. Trade routes rerouted, embassies shuttered, and galactic markets plunged. But the fear was not just economic. Deep down, every species remembered the last time humanity had gone quiet, 2 centuries ago, during the Great Creel Incursion. For 2 weeks, Earth transmitted nothing, not a word, not a plea for help. Then, without warning, they unleashed a counteroffensive so brutal it shattered the Creel war machine and forced the insectoid empire into permanent retreat. It was not a war. It was an extermination. And now the galaxy wondered, terrified, if history was about to repeat itself. Back aboard the Resolute, Evelyn stood over the holomap of Sol system. Her Exos voice was low. "We can't stay here forever, Commander. Whatever's happening on Earth, we need to know if we're still part of it. If they've gone to ground, they'll have protocols." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Agreed. Prep a drop shuttle. I'm going down there myself." Her crew stared at her as though she had just volunteered to walk into a supernova. "Ma'am," the helmsman said carefully, "we don't know what's down there." "Exactly," Evelyn said, turning toward the airlock. "And that's why I'm going to find out." As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Evelyn felt the weight of the silence pressing on her. No traffic controllers pinged her approach vector. No civilian shuttles crossed her path. The planet's surface was shrouded in darkness, lit only by the cold gleam of moonlight on oceans. And then, just as the shuttle broke through the clouds, the first lights appeared. Not city lights, no, these were precise, organized, and impossibly vast. Massive arrays, stretching for kilometers, glowing with a faint, eerie blue. Evelyn's breath caught. She didn't recognize the design. Humanity didn't build things like this. At least, not the humanity she remembered. The shuttle's landing struts kissed the ground with a hollow clang, the sound echoing unnaturally in the air. Commander Evelyn Hale sat in the cockpit for a moment longer than necessary, staring at the ghostly blue glow beyond the viewport. It pulsed. Slowly. Deliberately. Like the planet itself was breathing. "Atmosphere is stable," the flight computer reported in its neutral tone. "No biohazard warnings detected. Recommend external survey." Evelyn stood, her movements mechanical. She was no stranger to hostile landings, no stranger to stepping onto battlefields where the smell of plasma-charred Earth still lingered. But this was different. There was no war here, no destruction, just a planet that seemed to be holding its breath. She cycled the airlock and stepped outside. The silence hit her first. Not the kind of silence one expects in wilderness, where wind and insects provide a subtle background hum. This was absolute. No animals, no air traffic, not even the faint whine of distant power lines. Her boots crunched against pale soil, each sound unnaturally loud in the still air. The glowing array stretched before her, an intricate web of pylons and emitter towers, all linked by lines carved into the Earth itself. The patterns were geometric, fractal, far too precise to be random. She recognized some of the structures: orbital defense uplinks, planetary shields, mass driver mounts. But there were others, taller spires, ringed with emitters, whose function she could not begin to guess. Evelyn keyed her helmet comm, "Resolute, I'm on the surface. Recording everything. Tell me you're getting this feed." The reply was static. She froze. Her uplink wasn't jammed, there was simply no response. No connection. The realization slithered cold down her spine. Something, or someone, was preventing her from talking to her own ship. Deep beneath the surface, where Evelyn could not see, titanic machines stirred. Sensors buried in the mantle fed data to vast processors, older than any human alive, built in a time when Earth was still licking its wounds from the Creel War. They had slept for centuries, watching, waiting, monitoring. Now, for the first time in 200 years, they were awake. Hours passed. Evelyn followed the glowing trail across the darkened landscape, recording as she went. Eventually, the array led her to what had once been a city, New London. Or rather, what remained of it. The skyline was still there, but the windows were dark, the streets empty. Vehicles were parked haphazardly, as if abandoned mid-use. There were no bodies, no signs of panic. Just absence. And then she heard it. A sound. Faint, almost subsonic, but it made her bones vibrate. She turned toward the source and saw movement for the first time. Figures, human silhouettes, standing motionless in the street, facing her. Her hand went to her sidearm automatically. "Identify yourselves," she called out. They didn't respond. They didn't move. Then, as one, they turned, not toward her, but toward the horizon. A pulse of blue light rippled through the sky, racing across the city like a wave. The figures straightened, their posture snapping into eerie uniformity. And then, without a word, they walked away. Far above, in orbit, the ISS Resolute sounded a proximity alarm. "Contact," the sensor officer barked. Multiple signatures emerging from the surface. "No, wait, they're launching." The bridge lit up with warnings as dozens of sleek objects tore free of Earth's atmosphere. They weren't broadcasting transponders, weren't on any registry. "Are those drones?" the XO demanded. "No," the sensor officer said, her voice suddenly small. "They're ships. Warships. And they're using drive signatures I've never seen before." One by one, the ships formed up in low orbit, silent, angular shapes with no visible weapons, but radiating enough power to make the Resolute's shields autocompensate just from the background radiation. "Should we hail them?" the XO asked. The captain hesitated. "No. We wait for them to speak first." Evelyn climbed to the top of a shattered skyscraper, panting hard. From here, she could see it all, arrays lighting up across entire continents, a spiderweb of energy converging toward a single point somewhere near the Arctic Circle. The blue glow grew brighter with every passing second until it was nearly blinding. Her wrist console pinged. Not a comm signal. A message. Just one line. "Do not interfere. This is the Ascension Protocol." Her breath caught. She had read about the Ascension Protocol once, classified material buried deep in Terran fleet archives. A contingency plan, supposedly abandoned, that would unite all of Earth's military and industrial capacity under a single, planet-wide directive. But she had thought it was theoretical. A myth. And yet here it was, burning across the planet in real time. Elsewhere, in the council chamber of the Virilai hegemony, the panic was reaching fever pitch. "They are mobilizing," Chancellor Vrelth hissed. "We have confirmed visual data of Terran warships never before catalogued. This is no mere drill." Their silence was the warning, another delegate muttered. "Then we must respond." Admiral Hrax thundered, slamming a claw against the chamber floor. "If they are preparing for war, we cannot allow them to finish." "Against Earth?" Vrelth snapped. "You would attack a species that defeated the Creel when they were outnumbered 20-1? A species that dismantled the Drath Collective in 3 weeks?" But the Admiral's words were already sparking calls for mobilization. Fleets were put on alert, defensive grids powered up. The galaxy was bracing itself, because if the humans had chosen war, there would be no safe place to hide. Night fell on Earth, but it no longer looked like night. The entire planet now glowed with blue latticework, a living circuit. Evelyn stood at the edge of a launch facility and watched as another ship, larger than the rest, rose on a column of energy. Its hull bore no markings, no flag, no name. And yet, deep in her bones, Evelyn knew what it was. Humanity's first and last superweapon. The one they swore never to use. She tapped her wrist console and opened a secure channel to the Resolute. "This is Commander Hale. Listen carefully. Whatever Earth is doing, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Tell the crew to hold position. If anyone tries to interfere, anyone at all, they won't survive." There was a long pause, and then the Exos voice came back, strained. "Understood, Commander. But you should know, multiple alien fleets are converging on Sol. They think Earth is preparing to strike." Evelyn looked back toward the rising ship. "Then they're about to learn what preparing to strike really means." The alien fleets arrived at the edges of Sol system like wolves circling a wounded prey. Except this prey wasn't wounded. And every predator felt it. The first to arrive was the Zelthari Expeditionary Armada, 30 ships strong, their spiked silhouettes bristling with weapons. They took up formation beyond Neptune, cautious but aggressive, scanning every signal, probing every defense grid. One by one, more fleets appeared. The Virili Hegemony's gold-plated dreadnoughts, the insectoid creel swarms with their living bioships, the crystalline Mer enclaves whose vessels shimmered like ice sculptures. Even species who had sworn neutrality sent, observers, a polite word for strike groups. By the time the last FTL ripple faded, there were over 300 ships parked at the edge of humanity's home. And yet Earth said nothing. No warning. No challenge. Just silence. Aboard the ISS Resolute, the bridge crew stared at the tactical display in horrified awe. "They've brought enough firepower to crack the planet," the XO murmured. "Maybe that's what they think they'll need," the helmsman said darkly. Evelyn stood with arms folded, her face a mask. She had returned from the surface only hours earlier, and her report had chilled the crew to the core. "They're too late," she said quietly. The XO turned. "Too late for what?" "To stop it," Evelyn replied. "The Ascension Protocol is already past the point of no return. Every factory, every orbital yard, every AI core, everything humanity has, is now under a unified command. There is no turning it off." The XO swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" Evelyn didn't answer. Because she didn't know. Across Sol system, the arrays reached critical mass. From Luna to Titan, from the orbital shipyards to the deep core reactors under the Pacific Trench, power was funneled into one place, the Arctic Circle. The ground trembled as an ancient complex rose from beneath the ice, shedding centuries of frost like a predator waking from hibernation. It was not just a base. It was a fortress. No, more than that. It was a throne. The alien admirals argued over what to do. "We must strike now," hissed the Zelthari warlord, his mandibles clacking. "While their forces are still gathering." "You think they are gathering?" Vrelth of the Virili said coldly. "Look at the energy readings. They are ready. The first shot you fire will be the last decision you ever make." But fear was a dangerous counselor, and fear had gripped every heart in that armada. Ships moved into attack vectors. Weapons charged. And that was when the sky spoke. It was not a broadcast in any known language. It was not sound, or radio, or light. It was something deeper, older, a signal that resonated in the bones of every living thing. "This is Earth," the voice said, vast and calm as a god's judgment. "We have chosen ascension. Stand down and live. Interfere, and you will be erased." For a heartbeat, the galaxy hesitated. And then someone, no one ever learned who, fired. A single plasma lance lanced across the void, aimed at one of the glowing arrays on Mars. It never reached its target. A human warship, one of the new, nameless ones, moved faster than light, faster than thought, and simply, appeared in the path of the shot. Its hull absorbed the blast without damage. And then it fired back. The retaliatory strike did not just destroy the attacking ship. It erased it, atom by atom, leaving behind nothing but a fading shockwave. The message was clear. Earth would not be touched. From that moment, everything changed. The Ascension fleet rose from Earth like a storm given form. Dozens, then hundreds of ships launched, each one unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, sleek, silent, radiating power like miniature suns. They did not attack. They did not chase the alien armadas. They simply took position, forming a perfect sphere around the planet, a shell of iron resolve. And then, in the center of it all, the great Arctic fortress sent out a final pulse of light. The glow spread across the Earth's surface, across the oceans, across the night sky itself, until the whole planet burned with blue fire. Then it stopped. The lights winked out. And Earth was gone. The alien fleets panicked, their comm channels erupting in frantic chatter. But their sensors confirmed the unthinkable. Earth had not been destroyed. It had not been cloaked. It had simply left. The entire planet, and everything in orbit around it, had shifted out of normal space. No trace remained, no gravity well, no electromagnetic signature. Humanity had ascended. In the stunned silence that followed, Evelyn Hale stood on the Resolute's bridge, staring at the empty void where her home had been. Her crew looked to her for answers, but she had none. Finally, she spoke. They warned us. They told the galaxy not to interfere. Her Exos voice was hushed. Where do you think they went? Evelyn turned from the viewport, her expression unreadable. Everywhere, she said. Or nowhere. Wherever they need to be. Whatever they've become, they're beyond us now. Across the galaxy, the fleets dispersed in silence. No one spoke of retaliation. No one dared. Because everyone understood the truth. Earth had not gone silent out of fear. They had gone silent because they no longer needed to speak. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, humanity was watching. Waiting. And should the galaxy ever threaten them again, there would be no warning next time. Only annihilation.